So the question is, when should I trust my gut? How do I know if it's genuine gut feeling or just my doubts and fears coming out to play? So my answer to that would be, it's a balance of trusting your gut or heart, you could say, trusting the intelligence of your mind, trusting the intelligence of your body, and not ignoring your connection to higher intelligence, right? So if you're around this body of work, then that shouldn't sound strange to you. If you're listening to the recording or the podcast, then maybe if it's a new concept, then I'd invite you to consider it, right? And what I've learned from my experience of doing this work is that the body has its own intelligence. The mind has its own intelligence, and what we call the gut or the heart has its own intelligence. And they all have a place, a time and a place. And for certain situations, if I'm doing something that requires more of the intelligence of my mind or my brain, then that's what I should be using. And that's normally when I need to solve a problem, right? Because this is a supercomputer built to solve problems. It's really good at, coming up with ideas and solutions to solve problems, right? And then there's a mix of the intelligence of the heart or the gut, as you say, right? So, and you could say an intuition, and the intelligence of the body and the intelligence, connection to higher intelligence, right? Which is not outside, even though I'm pointing out it's actually within us. And it's a balance, right, of listening and consulting all these faculties of intelligence that is within us. Minds, the heart, the gut, the body, and infinite intelligence. I don't believe it's one or the other. Generally, it's a good idea to consult our different faculties, right? And then sit and consider it and come to a decision, not just sit with it and never make a decision. Because indecision, as I've said before, is also a decision. And the choices we make gives us the results that we get or have already gotten. And if the results that we have gotten don't work, then you can go back and reverse engineer the choices that you made or can make to give you a different set of results, if that's what you want. How do I know if it's genuine gut feeling or just my doubts and fear coming out to play? This one, so far, what I've worked out, my measure for it, and I'm just sharing my measure for it, is that it's hard to kind of work it out in the mind, right? Because it's like I'm trying to get the mind to think feeling. Because, in that moment, if I'm not connected to my intuition, then you could say I'm not feeling. So thinking feeling, I realize, doesn't work. So rather than trying to think feeling, how about I go into feeling the feeling? And a different place for me to feel into things is my body. Because the body is far more tangible, you could say, than me trying to connect my emotions through my mind, right? As in thinking, feeling. So the body, because it's connected, right? Like mind, the body, the heart is all connected. You can't separate it. One will reflect on the other. So if I'm in fear response tends to show up in sensations in the body. So if I'm stuck in my head, right, or I'm stuck in some emotions, some difficult emotions, let's say, or let's say fear, then you want to switch to a different modality, the body, the physical body. And quite simply, like we do in our meditation, if you scan the body, you start to pick up sensations, right? As in like feel sensations in the body. Sensations of fear and doubt show up differently in the body to trust, let's say, which is kind of what you're saying here. Like, how do I know if it's a genuine gut feeling, right? A gut feeling has a very different set of sensations in my physical body to fear, like a fear response. Fear generally tends to show up for me as a tightness, as a restriction, a constriction, like muscles tensing up, right? And obviously I'm exaggerating here with this motion, like squeezing in shoulders and arms and gritting the teeth and like like all the muscles are kind of tense, right? Face, shoulders, arms, or wherever they are. And trust tends to show up, like openness in the body, meaning the muscle groups that were maybe tense when I'm fearful, they're relaxed. Like my face, my jaws, my shoulders, my chest, my heart, belly, like things are relaxed. And it tends to show up in the body. This is why it is another reason why it's so powerful to work on awareness in the body. Because the body is always speaking in sensation. It is giving us clues, right? It's showing, because it's connected to the emotion, it's connected to the heart, it's connected to the mind. If I'm thinking fearful thoughts, I'm going to feel fear, like emotions of fear, and I'm going to, the body's going to reflect sensations of that, or doubt, let's say, like you said. So I tend to switch into, right, like, okay, I can't track it, so let me go to the body instead. Switch modalities, I guess is what I'm saying. And that has given me a clue. And not only switch modalities to track it, but also if I'm too much in my head, or I'm too deep in some emotions and I can't get out of it, then I'll use the same example. I'll go to the body. So not only track it in sensation and go, okay, I'm in fear, I'm in doubt, I'm in worry, right? Like I'm in anxiety right now. Use your breath and body connection to move that energy through, to move that emotion through. So let's say if I'm feeling anxious about something, right? It's like switch your breathing. Maybe the breathing would be, anxious breath is like shallow breath, short, sharp breaths. So switch it to deep breathing. Or there's tightness in the body and like just kind of feel stuck. Okay, so maybe move through some postures, right? Like stretch out. Or just do 1 or 2 postures. You don't have to be on the mat, right? Like sometimes I'll just do, I'm in my house and just like do a forward fold and just release the tension in my back and the back of the legs. Switch into deep breathing. Or do a lunge, like hand on a counter, kitchen counter or something, right? Or a chair. And then just do a lunge. Do it on both sides, or do a twist. Right? Just use whatever's around you. Do a little stretch, do a bit of breathing. Or if you're in the office or in a meeting room, then, I don't know, go to the bathroom or something and do a stretch, or go out for a walk, right? And just improvise. But if you're in an environment where you can't and you have to, keep it together, then you can do it with breath and shifting the breath, the depth of the breath. By switching your breath to deep breathing, it'll switch you out of fear, doubt, worry, all those kind of high tension emotions to a much more open, relaxed state. Open, resourceful state where you can tap into your resources, internal resources, and probably make better decisions because you're able to think and focus, right, with more clarity. So, when should I trust my gut? I'd say all the time. But also don't ignore the intelligence of your head, because there are times when you need to use the intelligence of your minds, right? Like, we are not here to fight the intelligence of the mind. It's not evil. There is a time and place for it, right? To use the intelligence of the mind, to use the intelligence of the body, to use the intelligence of our heart. And don't forget, it's more a reminder for me as well, don't forget your connection to the divine, to infinite intelligence. We forget often when we're in our heads, we've climbed into our heads, we're going round and round in circles, we're disconnected. We disconnect ourselves from infinite intelligence. It's like I've said it in, well, maybe not so recent programs, but like the In-Person Awaken, I think in December and things like that, it started to talk about the difference between artificial intelligence and higher intelligence. And it's kind of ironic that we have created artificial intelligence so that we can just go and access it anytime and ask it all sorts of questions. And yes, it's gotten cleverer and cleverer, but it's still not as clever as infinite intelligence, the intelligence that creates all things and no things, right? The universe. And that we have full access, free, high speed, instant connection to this intelligence. And it's available all the time. Yet, when we're stuck in our heads and we're limited to thinking like, this is who I am, I'm this object, and I'm trying to make it in this crazy thing called life. Yeah, it's kind of cute that we create artificial intelligence. Yeah, it's useful. But, don't forget, like, you're connected to infinite intelligence, and you can consult that faculty of intelligence as well, the highest intelligence.